How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. I apologize for not getting a podcast out yesterday. Some personal things were going down, but I'm here now to address some things about the Kansas City Chiefs with you all. One of the biggest things that I've seen following the first week, also before we get into that, what a first week of football that was. A lot of blockbuster games, a lot of teams that were expected to kind of be underneath the ground compared to the playoff teams had a good first week, while other playoff teams last year kind of are still slow to get out of the gates, including the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I can't compare them to a team like, for instance, the Detroit Lions or the Los Angeles Chargers, that is, because it still is just a week one. And that kind of leads into the topic for the conversation today is, should there be concern within the Chiefs wide receiving room going into the second week of the season? Now, I'm sure all of you have found out, and if you haven't, I will relay this information to you. It is believed that Xavier Worthy suffered a dislocated shoulder on that freak accident play that happened within seconds of the Chiefs having the ball offensively. Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy just kind of collided at a spot that looked really bad. Initially, when I was watching it, I thought, this is going to be an injury that is going to sideline him for the game. I did not think that it would be for multiple. But especially for the Kansas City Chiefs, if an injury like that happens, you have to kind of take it carefully, because you're also playing with fire without having Rashee Rice for the first 6 weeks of the campaign. But now with Rashee Rice, who knows how long the timetable is for his return. We'll sure to give you updates, so be sure you follow us on all social media platforms to link and follow along to make sure you don't miss Xavier Worthy's injury updates. But if there should be any concern in the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiving room, it does stem around not having Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy on the field for the first 6 weeks, at least. Now, I say this because we have seen how effective that Rashee Rice can be when he's healthy. His first season, he was nearly a 1,000 receiving yard receiver. Last year, before getting hurt with an LCL injury to the Los Angeles Chargers, he seemed to be on pace for a terrific season. He was already at 288 receiving yards through 4 games to his injury, and then he got sidelined. Those two factors of Rashee Rice's game, it shows you, like, hey, when he's healthy, this guy is a difference maker. But now, obviously, he is healthy, but just sidelined due to actions off the field. You take him out of the equation, then you take the speed and the comfortability out of Xavier Worthy. He said all preseason that he felt more comfortable as he went on in the season with the Kansas City Chiefs, while he also was learning what Patrick Mahomes likes and doesn't like in the receiving game. And he was stepping into a role that was familiar for him last year. When Rashee Rice went down, Xavier Worthy, as a rookie, stepped in and filled the space for all that he could. While there were rookie mistakes, he had a promising year, and so much so that he looked really good in this preseason and the offseason. High hopes were surrounding Xavier Worthy. But now with him also out, is there concern? I think that there is a case that some people can have, but there's also a case that is an optimistic case that I think the Chiefs Kingdom should take with the first half of the season. Now, we knew Rashee Rice was going to be out. We didn't know that Xavier Worthy was going to be injured. That doesn't take away the wide receivers that they have still at their disposal. You've got Hollywood Brown, who had a great game for what the standards were. You had to have the ball moved a lot, and Hollywood Brown was a guy that Patrick Mahomes wanted to find. You also have Travis Kelce. Yes, he did score a touchdown. He was not targeted and utilized as often in the receiving game as some would have expected. Now, going into this year, head coach Andy Reid did say that he would have the same workload or a similar workload for Travis Kelce to begin the year, but he would be keeping an eye on him should he slow down. From the things that we saw in week one for the Kansas City Chiefs, there were signs of him being slow, but there was also signs of, hey, Travis Kelce, he might be back. He looked really good. There was a little bit of a miscommunication in the red zone and a crucial point of the game that could have led to a touchdown for the Kansas City Chiefs, but went for naught, involving Kelce. But those two, and all in all, the track record for those two when they are healthy and when they are on top of their game is strong. You've also got a backup tight end and a receiving tight end in Noah Gray. I've talked about him several times on the podcast. He should be a guy that could be leaned on, especially going into week 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles. You also have rookie Jalen Royals, should he return relatively soon from his injury. He's an option to rely on should Xavier Worthy not return before he does. There's also Tyquan Thornton, a guy who had an impressive preseason that really earned his spot on the wide receiving crew for the Kansas City Chiefs this season. He's also a player to rely on. He had an impressive game. You've got Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, I understand that the depth is still there for the Kansas City Chiefs, and some people are concerned about the playmakers not being there, being Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. And I am here to say that, the Kansas City Chiefs, they found themselves in this kind of situation last year. There was a lot of one-score games. There wasn't a lot of explosiveness from the offensive standpoint. You've got a somewhat better protection for Patrick Mahomes on the offensive line to allow him to look deep for those passes. You do have speed threats. You kind of saw on how Patrick Mahomes wanted to target Thornton deep, and though he finally did haul in one of those deep passes, those have to start to become more of a consistent reality. If that happens, I think that there should be no concern within the wide receiving room for the Kansas City Chiefs. You also have to understand that this just was the first week of football. There's 17 more weeks, 16 more games for the Kansas City Chiefs to play. And I think that as soon as they get out of the gates and they get their first victory on the season, it's going to be at the hands and of the help of the wide receiving crew. Of those men listed, depending on when Xavier Worthy returns, I think that there should not be a concern going forward until further notice for the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to the wide receivers. There were also some people that they could look to bring in for the replacement or fill in for Xavier Worthy should he be out prolonged. I wrote an article about it yesterday. Be sure you go check it out, in talking about how two potential wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs to bring in to help the cause and get out of the gates. Week 2 is a big week for the Kansas City Chiefs, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles at Arrowhead Stadium in front of their hometown fans, looking to end a prolonged losing streak that has dated back to their Super Bowl loss. If they want to put the revenge season, it's going to start in week 2, and I'm hopeful that the wide receiving room potentially without Xavier Worthy, without Rashee Rice, is going to be able to get the job done. And I hope that you guys feel that way too. We still got a good Kansas City Chiefs team that we're covering, and I can't wait for more football come next week. But that being said, as always, folks, be sure you follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs as we get closer and prolonged throughout the season, as we get closer to week 2, that is. You should also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI, where every single story is posted exclusively free to you. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is the best source to get your Kansas City Chiefs news. We would love to see you there and follow along on this 2025 campaign. As always, folks, be kind to one another. I'll see you tomorrow.